We're pretty far from Tallahassee down through here, so it's not that easy for us down in Broward and Dade and Monroe counties to, go, sit in at meetings or go bend your ear when you're in Tallahassee. But what can we do back here at home in our districts to make sure that we get, our Republican agenda implemented and kind of be the wind at your backs while you're up there legislating and taking heat?
Well, thank you for that, because oftentimes the hardest part for us is being 500 miles away and not having that sense of community, that pulse that tells you, what is it that we're doing, what is it that we should be doing. And so obviously you can look online and view any committee meeting or any topic, any legislative proceedings are online and available. You can certainly, I think, obviously grow the Broward YRs, and anything that I can do that'd be helpful in that endeavor, I'm happy to do. But I often think that education and awareness is probably very lacking. I think people really, again, back to the voter apathy, even people such as yourselves that are interested in politics, I think sometimes we feel a little disenchanted, a little disenfranchised, and sort of like, it doesn't really matter what I do, how I do it. But I would just encourage each and every one of you to be very involved and very engaged. And I know Ginger is, and I see her Facebook posts, and clearly we're in a different world, in the world of social networking and social media that is just something very, very new, and I think for a lot of us, perhaps not for some of you younger people, but certainly it's an opportunity to really tap into people, again, that are traditionally not going to go to Tallahassee, not necessarily going to get involved in that regard, but if you can access those individuals through other venues and other mechanisms, then by all means. I mean, I think we need to be focused on growing the involvement and the engagement of folks.
One of my goals in the board's goals with the club is to show that the Republican Party is more than it's stereotypical, that there are women, there are minorities. How do you feel that the climate, some things that I've noticed with a lot of the big races, our Senate race and things like that, there aren't a lot of women candidates. There's almost none in some of the races. And as an elected official in Tallahassee, how do you feel that the climate is towards women, and it's particularly with the Republican Party?
Sure. Well, I gotta say, I mean, there's not a lot of women. I'll be honest, in Tallahassee, not a lot of Republican women. There's a lot more Democrat women in office than Republican women. And I personally would like to see more women in politics. I think that whether it's local, state, federal, you name it, I think we need more women. Women have a different perspective, a different way of handling things. Well, I didn't say better, but she did. We can argue about that later. But no, I mean, I think giving them an opportunity to be part of something like the Broward YRs, it gives you a forum, it gives you an opportunity to really, hear and think. And actually, one of the things that really focused me in on elected office was I was at a panel, and I can't recall who it was, but this individual said, obviously it's a little bit more challenging for a woman to get into politics because traditionally, for instance, in my case, I have three children. So my husband is very supportive of my political world, as Kathy will attest. But I do have a support system in place, and that's critical. If I didn't have that, I couldn't run for office. It's too challenging to balance work and children and then a campaign, which I will not kid you is grueling, and it's the most difficult thing apart from being a parent that I've ever done. So you really have to be committed, but I think you also have to know that you have a support system behind you. And so in order to get more women to run for office, if that's your goal, and get more minorities involved, I think you have to give them a place where they can feel that they have the support system, whether it's personal, financial, or even just helping them get up to speed on policies. So.
How do you, I know this is like, I'm a big advocate for concealed carry on college campuses, and obviously we didn't get that this year. How do you feel about it, and do you think that there will be a chance of maybe that in the future?
Well, I supported it. I supported it in the National Rifle Association questionnaire. We got a watered down version. I don't know. The NRA is usually pretty aggressive, and they usually take a pretty aggressive approach to their legislative agenda. It's still kind of early. It's an election year next year, so things get a little turned upside down. Plus, it's a redistricting year. Plus, I assume we'll continue to have some budgetary challenges. So each session takes on a life of its own, and it takes on a focus that it's hard to tell what will transpire from year to year. So, and then again, you add into the mix the fact that the presiding officer in the Senate is running for U.S. Senate, and I don't know if he's come to speak with you all or not, Senator Herodopoulos. So he's running, and so that whole chamber takes on a different tone. Clearly, he'll have an agenda that will help, or at least in his mind, will help him get to where he wants to be in the next step. And you can again argue if you support him or not. I'm not here to talk about that, but it takes on a different tone, and so because of that, you'll see things crop up that may not necessarily have been part of the legislative agenda at the onset. So every year is different. Every year is unique. But nonetheless, I think every year you'll see at least some sort of NRA bill that makes its way through. It was the open carry, it was the stocks versus blocks, if you will. And so there was a lot of issues this year. Yeah. So, yes.
Well, we have veto-proof majorities in this legislature, and we weren't able to get E-Verify or concealed carry. And, as you said, this is a redistricting year. And, next year is an election year. Might not see these kinds of majorities again for a long time. So I'm just curious, what's the realistic likelihood that we will get a bill like E-Verify next year or concealed carry? It doesn't look too good out.
Yeah, well, in terms of the veto-proof, we're hopeful, the party's hopeful that we will actually gain seats. And again, Speaker Designate Will Weatherford is the individual that's leading the effort to ensure that we not only keep the Republicans we have elected, but also look at the borderline seats that we may be able to flip. So I know that the party is very focused on not only retention but growth in the party. But that being said, the reality is 2012 being an election year. I suspect that President Obama will focus heavily on Florida and spend a lot of money here, and that may benefit his party. So like I said, it's hard to say what will come out of each session. I mean, sometimes I'll give you a perfect example. For Tallahassee insiders, the biggest issue this year was deregulation. And when I tell you that we had hours upon hours of committee of deregulation of certain industries, and the number one issue was interior designers, you would scratch your head and say, what? So, I mean, again, every session takes on a life of its own. It becomes almost, it becomes a very, very changing and malleable topic from one minute to the next. And the speaker may have a different priority next year, and the president will have his priorities. So it all just boils down to negotiating and bartering at the highest level.
Actually, I have one. My sister is chairman of Arizona Drug Trade, and they just lost medical marijuana passed in Arizona by 0.05%. And the rumor out there was that Florida was going to be the next state, and I haven't seen it come up this year. Have you heard anything at all, any rumors or rumors?
Not at all. Not at all. I would highly doubt that. Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that. I mean, every year, either somebody files a bill or somebody talks about medical marijuana, but I have not. I seriously don't take that issue up.
There they got it on the ballot by petition, so it didn't have to go through the legislature, so I'd hate to see that happen here.
Yeah.
But the rumor was, at least in Arizona, and it...
I mean, they may be organizing here, but I haven't heard this. Yeah. But who knows? Yeah. That'd be great. Anyone else? Yes.
Don't know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.